You've been watching a special report with Tony DeCulpo, who interviewed Dolly Parton, talked about his recollections of that interview. We have breaking news here on CBS News 24/7. Breaking news that I think nobody likes to break, and that is the stunning death of entertainment icon Dolly Parton, the country music icon, songwriter, entertainer, entrepreneur. You can add title after title after title. Died in Nashville at the age of 80. Her death announced in a video by her nephew, Brian Seaver. Parton shared an update on her health Friday, August 21st. It's the last time we got an update from her, acknowledging recent declines in her health after the March 2025 death of her husband, much-loved Carl Dean, who she met on her first day in Nashville outside a laundromat. Parton shared an update on her health then. She acknowledged recent decline after that March 2025 death. And today, we pay tribute to a country music legend and an icon. As a child of rural America myself, I know that many of you in rural America are logging on and listening, and you feel like you've lost a friend. Listen to Dolly Parton's America podcast recently and just listen to how she had a power to unite people. You know, Dolly Parton, who acted alongside Lily Tomlin, Jane Fonda, chose herself to not take the route of political activism. She said she had her own political opinions. She had her own feelings about things. But she said, look, I have people from all sides of the political spectrum. They are my audience, and I want all of us to be united. And indeed, whenever you listen to a Dolly Parton song, wherever you were on planet Earth, or whenever you were lucky enough to go to one of her concerts, you did not see the person to your left or to your right as being a part of the left or the right. You saw somebody who shared a common interest, and that was this: family. Memories of your own home, perhaps spurred on by Dolly Parton's much loved, as she wrote in her lyrics, her Tennessee mountain home. Listen, Dolly Parton, known for her legendary song 9 to 5 that she tapped out on her fingernails, but she was also known to work 24/7, 365. In fact, as news started to break of some of her health problems and some of her canceled events, Dolly Parton would go on social media and she would say, look, I'm addressing these health problems that perhaps I didn't look at as I took care of my Carl Dean as he was in his final and declining years. But she kept working, and she said, as you just heard in that news piece, she kept working to make sure that her music would live forever. And indeed, it will. Recently, I heard an interview with Dolly Parton where she said she was working with AI to make sure that there was a way that her music could be heard forever. And indeed, she promised her fans that her music catalog would continue, that there are still many more Dolly Parton creations, projects, and songs that are yet to come, that will come into popular context here. And so we know that Dolly Parton has gone on, and she has left this world at the age of 80 after experiencing health troubles that made recent headlines. But we also know that new music is yet to come direct from her. Now, also, we have to think about this. Dolly Parton, an advocate for rural America, and especially the rural America that raised her. She wrote about her Tennessee mountain home, and she made sure through her activism, through her philanthropy, that millions and millions of dollars were raised to make sure that children had books in their hands, pages to turn, stories to read, to boost literacy through her various literacy programs for young people here in the United States of America. I just referenced that Dolly Parton's America podcast, just looked it up a moment ago. It lives on YouTube. And what I learned from that podcast is we all have this national and indeed international conversation about the passing of this music legend is this, that there are fans in the far-off reaches of Africa, the far-off reaches of the Middle East, people who have found a common heartbeat, raised in different communities than perhaps you and I were raised in, but found what unites us, found what divides us, and maybe walking away from some of those divisions and coming together for a common cause, for family, for community, and for home. Dolly Parton inspired generations of artists. Just watch back the Grammys, and you will see that so many young artists stood at that microphone to claim their own moment in the spotlight and thank the great Dolly Parton, who started very, very young. The child of religious people in the Smoky Mountains, Dolly Parton often wrote about her spiritual upbringing, but also made it very clear to her fans that she felt that the God she worshiped had a tent large enough for everybody. She was asked not long ago about her advocacy for LGBTQ plus people and said, look, I don't judge, and I don't believe God judges, and I'm not going to do that. So Dolly Parton created a very big tent with tent stakes on every continent on planet Earth, with lyrics that resonated with people from communities all over planet Earth. So if you're just logging on here to CBS News 24/7, you are seeing the headline there at the bottom of your screen, the headline that hurts. Country music legend Dolly Parton having passed away at the age of 80. Found it interesting to note that Dolly Parton's relative was the one who brought this news to the world. That relative, very much a part of her small tent of family and friends who supported her career, who nurtured her career. One of her nephews working with her in security, traveling the world with her. I had an opportunity to know somebody who was in proximity of an appearance that Dolly Parton was doing in London, of all places, and saw this huge entourage of people that follows her around, that made sure that she was safe. But also she took time to make sure that people knew that she was one of them. If you've ever visited the Dollywood theme park in Tennessee, you know that. In fact, just this morning, talked to a friend of mine who'd been to the Dolly Parton theme park not long ago. That place that sort of canonizes life in the Smoky Mountains, the importance of music. And so no doubt many of you who have planned, or maybe even today are visiting Dollywood, are seeing that place a little differently today. It is added to her lyrics, which are part of the great American songbook, right? It is that place that canonizes life in rural America, struggle in rural America, the power of family, the power of music to unite us. I think of Dolly Parton and her song that so many people resonate with, and that is The Coat of Many Colors. And how her mother stitched that coat of many colors together to make sure that her daughter walked in her little one-room schoolhouse and felt proud to be who she was, to be what she was, and to have a future and a place, not only in those desks, but also in the world. Dolly Parton, a legend of country music, passing away at the age of 80. Her name on the Country Music Hall of Fame. You've got to imagine there in Nashville, where I've spent some time as a songwriter myself at the Ryman Auditorium. Today, people have got to be gathered in Nashville, where it all began, and are marking this moment. Not only marking her career, but what her career meant to so many others. Dolly Parton's family member took her to Nashville at a young age, took her there to meet the people, to be on the stages, and to start her career. You know, without having to be a heavy-handed advocate for women, Dolly Parton was an ally and an advocate for women. Let's think about that for a moment and talk about that. Dolly Parton said that she was a woman, but she thought like a man, and she navigated the business world like a man. And if you doubt that, all you have to do is go back and look at her career. The great Porter Wagoner, and you young people logging on, maybe Google who Porter Wagoner was. He had the #1 television show at the time, and Dolly Parton was brought on after somebody else was moved out of the role, and she was put on the great Porter Wagoner show. And little by little, as a woman, taken for granted, somebody who they made fun of her voice, somebody even likened her voice in those early years to Minnie Mouse. Well, Dolly Parton carved out her space there on the Porter Wagoner show, and she was able to rise to such prominence that she found equal partnership there on the show, equal popularity on the show with Porter Wagoner. And then it became time for her to leave the nest. It was a little bit of a bumpy road between her and the great Porter Wagoner, but she wrote him that song, that iconic song, and you know the one I'm talking about at home, I Will Always Love You. And it was her way of breaking the ice that formed when she told Porter Wagoner, look, I don't want to just be the person in duets or the backup singer. I know what I came here for. I know what I'm here to do. And I need you to know, to thaw the ice and to perhaps know that I will always love you. And she sang that song first to Porter Wagoner in an office. And that was the start of that song that has had life after life with many artists, including the great Whitney Houston. All right, so we are going now to talk to a guest and continue this conversation as we all gather around the fire and pay tribute to the music legend Dolly Parton. Who do we have here? I'm hearing in my ear who we're going to talk to. Jamie Wax. Okay, Jamie, let's bring you on, Jamie. First of all, your reaction, definitely, it took my breath away. And you?
Well, mine as well. My big connection to Dolly is my work in the theater and as a creator, because Dolly was kind of the ultimate creator, and we have many mutual friends through that. Her story, of course, has been as inspiring to me as it has been to everyone. As you mentioned, with Porter Wagner, with everything, with her poverty, she is the hero of Pigeon Forge who would never be pigeonholed, right? She outgrew everything that was expected of her and somehow reached the apex of the next step. And if there's a great American story, I think it is Dolly Parton. I think this is a global loss, but in a huge way, a national loss that really we don't see anymore, that crosses political lines, that crosses economic lines, racial lines. If you don't love Dolly Parton to your soul, there's probably something wrong with you. You need to go examine. And her story is probably the ultimate story of inspiration and American potential and creative potential in our own lives.
She does represent, in my mind, one of the greatest American success stories of all time. And wouldn't you know it, I'll be damned if she didn't write her own soundtrack for that greatest American story of all time.
And it was an evolving soundtrack as well. When it came time to do movies, she wanted to be a movie star. And then she wrote one of the greatest movie themes in history.
Yeah.
When it was time to leave Porter Wagner, as you said, she wrote one of the greatest I'm Leaving You, But I Love You songs in history. And she didn't stop. She just kept going and evolving as the world around her evolved and her own goals evolved.
Yeah, and I think of the opening lines to that song, "If I should stay, I would only be in the way." And it tugs at my heartstrings to think, oh, stay a little longer. You're never in the way. You are representative of the way. Correct, Jamie?
Yes, and I will tell you that her story, her Broadway musical, is scheduled to come in the spring to Broadway. I think now there's going to be even more interest and excitement about this. This is her life story. But I have many close friends and colleagues who have worked with her in the last year on this piece. And every single person, to a person, tells me that she is exactly who you hope she'll be. When you meet her, she's completely present, she's completely open, and she's everything you hope Dolly will be in your mind, that she actually delivered that on a personal connection with these people who work closely with her.
You know, I had the opportunity to see her not too long ago in Nevada, and it's just amazing to me. If you've never had the opportunity to be at a Dolly Parton concert, it's striking. You see this little person up there on this big stage, and within about 2 seconds, she walks in the high heels, with the hair, with the makeup, and she fills up the place. She fills up the stage, and it was just a great big heart that did that.
You know, there's a story about, of course, that's well told, and she's told a lot in her classic appearances on Carson and afterwards, that her whole look was based on a prostitute who really stood out to her. She was a person looking for an icon in Tennessee, in rural Tennessee, and so she saw all these people who all looked the same, and then there was a woman with flashy makeup and a big curvy figure and huge blonde hair, and she sort of latched on to that and said, well, that stands out, and maybe that's how I stand out.
Well, and I love that she had the humor of so many people that I grew up with in rural America, and it has a little bite to it. To your point about what a lot of people talk about Dolly Parton as having, some of her physical attributes, she said, you see why I have such tiny feet? You know why? Because nothing grows good in the shade. She had great humor, right? And she wasn't afraid to laugh at herself and use it.
Yeah. I mean, the other great joke of hers about her appearance is someone on the set of Steel Magnolias said, how do you get your hair like that? And she said, I don't know. I'm never in the room.
Very true. Good to talk to you. Stay with us for a moment. I would be remiss if we didn't go now to CBS News senior national correspondent Anthony Mason, whose beautiful storytelling was just a part of that CBS News special report. I was struck by the last part of that story.
Yeah.
Your impressions?
I got to tell you, I mean, I'm in shock. As much as there have been hints that this might be coming, she's been such a presence for so long. And even, in what have turned out to be her final days, she was planning this musical you were just talking about. She was really looking forward to bringing it to Broadway. She wanted very much for that to happen. And I really believe that she was going to be there for the debut. So I'm startled, but I think it's largely because of the impact she made on American culture. I mean, she wasn't just a country star. She was a movie star. She was a business star, a businesswoman.
Right.
As she said to Morley Safer in that 60 Minutes interview, she said, I may be a woman, but I have the mind of a man. And she, she was successful in just about everything that she did and put her mind to. And one of the things I was really struck by when I talked to her down at Dollywood last year was how committed she was to herself right from the beginning.
Right.
She knew she had talent, and she wasn't going to give up under any circumstance. And it's that resilience that's, been a huge part of her. And she isn't just a country star. She's a star,
right?
Of just epic proportions.
Without trying.
Without even trying.